There's no way I can come on here and not address what's going on in the world right now. The images I am seeing are haunting and harrowing, and this is not a new issue. I'm truly ashamed that it has taken us this long to speak out about it, and for that, I am also at fault. Australia is also deeply rooted with racism, and I am doing my best to educate myself. I've left some sources below, including in that are links to donate. Please stay safe and have those hard conversations. I know I've had a few, but above all, listen. Hey guys, welcome back. Today's going to be a bit of a different video and we're going to talk about horror movie themes. I'm super excited and very passionate about this subject, and I have learned a lot with my research. We're going to talk about my favorite horror themes, how horror elevates a film, and why it makes it scary. I am going to try and include snippets within this video of the songs I'm talking about, but because of the YouTube regulations, it's going to be a little bit tricky. I will leave a playlist to all of the songs down below if you want to stop, listen to what I'm talking about, and then come back to here. That's totally fine. If you don't know who I am, hi, my name is Emma. I'm also known as Spooky Astronauts here on YouTube, and I do 2 videos every single week about horror and thriller and anything spooky, creepy, downright dark. I talk about it and I love it. Subscribe. Before we jump into 10 horror movie themes that I absolutely love and adore, and some of them are gonna really surprise you, I'll tell you that. Let's talk about why music in horror movies is so important, and let's break down how it scares us. As they say, audio is half of the film, and I feel like we forget this at times. Whether that be an uncomfortable silent moment or an intense score designed to strike fear into our hearts, music has a way of creating the overall tone of a horror film and keeping it cohesive by linking it all back together. I'm going to break down 2 styles that I absolutely love used in horror movie themes and why I think they're effective. First, let's talk about synth. I'm a huge fan of 80s synth in horror music themes. I wouldn't have picked it either, it's surprising. But this sound and style tends to be used in really dramatic scores, and I love a powerful epic score. I think it really drags you into the film, and there's a theory why this is so effective in horror films. Research shows that horror movie scores where the melody suddenly becomes higher creates an emotional stimulation for its audience. Some of you may have heard this before. When an animal like a marmot gets scared, its vocal cords tense up, creating a higher shriek. So when you hear a frightening epic score that's tense and jarring, it's a call of danger. That seems pretty straightforward enough, so let's talk about my second aspect that I actually really love, and it's such a cliche, but it's children's singing and chanting. Children singing or nursery rhymes can give a horror film a creepy feeling. There's not one reason for this, but it's said that the reason that this feels so wrong and off-putting is because of the irony. Children are seen as innocent and fragile, so putting them in harm's way in a horror film feels wrong. It's as if it crosses a line. Just like when you see that cracked doll in the creepy haunted home, it reminds you of innocence in danger, or innocence gone wrong. This also goes for chanting, as people find it as a mockery of religion, something that people find comfort and salvation in, crossing the line. Furthermore, the idea of religion being exposed to a horrific situation heightens emotions and can make one think of their own mortality. I wanted to talk about those 2 aspects that I really love in horror movies, and hopefully it will explain why the scores in the next 10 films are so effective, so keep that in mind. I am a little bit worried because, as always, when you do a list of 10, there's gonna be films that aren't included. There definitely are some classics in this list, but it's not all classics by any means. These are actually horror movie scores that I listen to, some on a daily basis, songs that I return to. Some will be surprising, some not so much, but I'm really sorry I didn't include films like Friday the 13th. I know that it has a pretty iconic score, but I just did not include it in this list. And same with The Exorcist, which is one of my favorite horror movies. I did not include it, so please don't be offended if it's not in this top 10 list. Leave your favorites down below and why you think they're effective. But let's start with something that's gonna please everyone. Let's talk about the Jaws theme. I know I just said they won't all be classics, but I really wanted to talk about this epic score. Jaws is directed by Steven Spielberg and follows a group of men who hunt a killer shark that is terrorizing the community of Amity Island. There have been entire studies dedicated to this theme song and why two famous repeating chords strike fear in the hearts of the audience. When director Steven Spielberg was first played the score by composer John Williams, he thought it was a joke. The raw repetition of two chords on the piano was almost laughable, but then the bigger picture sunk in and the tone of the overall film changed. The idea behind the repetition was building tension based on timing, speeding up the pace to create fear and a rush of anxiety. Another great aspect of this theme was the way they used it. It's the placement. They only used the song whenever the shark was nearby. So even when people were playing pranks with a shark fin in the water, they wouldn't play the theme. The theme was only authentic sightings of the shark to signal to the audience what was about to happen. This was so clever because it did build up the tension, obviously, but it preconditioned the audience members to listen out for that signal before thinking there was a shark around. So in the second half of the film, when the shark jumps out of the water and tries to attack the crew, we are completely taken by surprise. We've been preconditioned to believe we're safe as long as we don't hear that music, so when they completely take it away, it's a shock. Really clever use of placement, allowing you to feel as shocked and as vulnerable as the characters. The second film I gotta talk about is Halloween. It's impossible to talk about horror themes and not talk about the Halloween theme by John Carpenter. This song was so influential to future horror scores and built a whole new type of atmosphere. John Carpenter's Halloween follows a babysitter who is stalked by a masked killer who has escaped from a mental hospital. Halloween isn't my favorite horror movie, but I have to say the score is inspiring and inspired so many filmmakers and really showcased what John Carpenter could do. Composing the score himself, he had complete control over the entire mood for the movie. And like we said, movie is half visual, half audio. I think the entire music arrangement of the film is amazing, but we need to talk about the theme. The theme utilizes repetition and then uses different elements to intensify it throughout the song. I am not a musician and I'm really bad at terminology, but from what I know, the film uses a modulating pattern. And the chord progression in the song never resolves itself, leaving the audience to feel uneasy. I've linked a video explaining this in detail down below, better than I can. All of that aside, of course, it's also using the epic synth, putting out the animal cry to anyone that listens. With the intense synth and the purposeful repetition, the song is just haunting. Let's switch it up a little and let's talk about the next theme by GOBLIN. Directed by Dario Argento, this film follows Susie, who travels to Germany to attend a prestigious ballet academy, only to witness terrifying events that lead her to the secrets behind the school. Composed and performed by Italian band GOBLIN, the SUSPIRIA soundtrack is something completely unique. The band has traveled globally to perform live alongside of a live screening of the film, and I was actually really lucky several years back to go see one of these performances. If they ever come to your town, to your area, it is definitely worth it. The theme song for this film is actually terrifying, but in a beautiful and mesmerizing way, much like the film, and it's the first one on this list that we're going to talk about the chanting that we referred to earlier in the video. Starting with a nursery rhyme-like tune, I think it very much plays into the innocent, childlike music we spoke of earlier, but then comes the breathy whisper of chanting, before the song completely breaks out into psychedelic madness. The song suits the film so well because of its stirring nature. The quiet chanting, it's allowing us to know what is actually going on behind the walls, but in a way that you can only understand if you listen. You need to be quiet and listen to hear the hard truth. The next one I'm going to talk about might put some of you guys off, but please listen to the song before you judge me. Yes, let's talk about the theme song for It Follows. It Follows is a 2014 horror film written and directed by David Robert Mitchell. The film is about a teenage girl who is stalked by an entity after a sexual encounter. The song has a very vintage horror sound that throws to films like Halloween. The song is composed by Disaster Peace, who mentioned in an interview with EW that the director wanted him to draw inspiration from the soundtrack from composers like John Carpenter, John Cage, and Krzysztof Penderecki. The song packs on a heavy synth, which I love. Disasterpiece said that the reason for this is because synths create sounds that aren't like sounds found in nature or real life. He said that this can cause the audience imagination to ignite. The whole soundtrack is really impressive, and even if you didn't like the film, I still encourage giving it a whirl. The next film I want to talk about is a little bit more classic, and this is Ave Satani, which the pronunciation for this really differs on where you're from, but it is the amazing score for the Omen. This amazing theme was composed by Jerry Goldsmith. Directed by Richard Donner, The Omen is about a family that upon tragedy orphan a baby boy. When the boy grows up, sinister events follow, which lead the parents to find out about the boy's history. Let's clear up the title. Ave Satani in Latin translates to Ave Satana, which translates to English to Hail Satan. I'm really sorry if any of that pronunciation was wrong. I've been trying real hard listening to pronunciations as I go. Goldsmith based the idea of the theme on an anti-Gregorian chant. A Gregorian chant is church music sung as a single vocal line. Gregorian chants were traditionally sung by choirs in churches or chapels. So Goldsmith took phrases from Mass and inverted them. So Hail Mary becomes Hail Satan. Hey, I don't make the rules. And the result is terrifying. A strong, deep composition that leaves dread in the audience's heart, with an obvious religious tone. The song was so haunting, it won the Academy Award for Best Original Score, with the song being nominated for Best Original Song, one of the few foreign language songs ever to be nominated. Next, let's talk about an opening song that is equal parts haunting and gentle. It's Helen's theme. Written for Candyman and composed by Philip Glass, this song just sticks with you. The film was directed by Bernard Rose. Candyman is about a student who searches for the truth behind a local legend of a man who is summoned by saying his name 5 times to a mirror. Philip Glass is widely regarded as one of the most influential composers of the late 20th century. It's one of the more gentle songs on this list, but just like the Candyman himself, it echoes a haunting backstory. And this time, unlike the others, its repetitive nature serves a different cause. It's not to make the audience feel discomfort, it's to show history repeating itself. A circle that never ends, much like Helen's fate in the film. But it also has a different intention. Repetitive songs are usually created to get stuck in someone's head, and the movie Candyman is all about obsession. Helen's obsession with the Candyman and the Candyman's obsession with her. It's just like the song that sticks in your head long after the movie's over. Another one that may shock you on this list, but one of my favorite scores of all time. It's Mandy. I was a fan of this film, but as you all may know, Mandy was an overwhelming visual experience. But for me, the beauty I took away from the film was the amazing soundtrack. Directed by Panos Cosmatos and Casper Kelly, Mandy is a stylized explosion of a dark neon fantasy, following the story of a woman who is captured by a crazed cult leader and a gang of demons, leaving her lover to rescue her no matter the cost. The beautiful dreamy theme was composed by the late Icelandic composer JOHANN, who passed away in 2018. Mandy was one of his last projects. His passing came shortly after the film premiered at the Sundance Film Festival. The director said that Johansson was so excited about the project, he forwent the typical workflow procedure and began experimenting with the composition before seeing any footage, just working off the script and a few sketches. He was deeply inspired by the director's vision. Mandy Love Theme is a laid song with soft guitars, nat sound, and a haunting echo. It's a beautiful song that slowly builds and falls away. Above all, it's a peaceful song that really helps shape the tranquility and balance in the film before everything is torn away. It's a really unexpected theme for a horror movie, but this is not a typical horror movie. Next, let's talk about Rosemary's Lullaby. Directed by Roman Polanski, the film follows young couple Rosemary and Guy that move into an apartment, but when Rosemary falls pregnant, she starts to notice strange events around her. feeling unsafe by her surroundings. Rosemary's Lullaby is the theme song. The song is also known as Sleep Safe and Warm. The song begins with shrill piano notes that move into a nursery rhyme that is performed by Mia Farrow herself. The song is sung through Lars, but the real creepiness comes from the fact it feels like a nightmarish children's song, which has much meaning for the film being it's Rosemary's baby. She's literally singing a nursery rhyme to her baby, which is so cool because they got Mia Farrow herself to sing it. So it's like the character is singing the nursery rhyme to her baby. It's both unnerving and a perfect foreshadowing for the film, and it just suits it so well. I love this song. But one of the most arguably unique and amazing theme songs from modern horror goes to the very recent theme for us, which is Anthem. This song is absolutely incredible, like the rest of the soundtrack, but somehow Anthem embodies everything I love in a horror theme while being entirely unique. Directed by Jordan Peele, Us is about a family whose life is turned into violent chaos after they're faced with their own doppelgangers. Anthem is composed by Michael ABELS, who wanted to create an opening song that sounded like an evil march, a way of signaling the audience to the evil ahead. The song begins with children's chanting, much like a choir, but short and sharp, and then the beat kicks in. But the interesting thing about this chant is actually it's made up of nonsense. Anyone who knows Jordan Peele's work knows he likes to put symbols and little Easter eggs in everything, and this song is no different. So why is it made up of nonsense? It's really simple. They wanted this song to sound like a warning, but something that you couldn't understand. So it's a warning at the start of the film to an uprising that is gonna happen, an evil march that is brewing, but that we don't understand why yet. We don't understand the intentions behind it, and we can't speak their language. The song was just made up of vowels that were easy to sing, and the arrangement also uses instruments that are not typically played side by side to give an eerie, strange feeling, but also to make the film not be able to be placed anywhere. They wanted the song to sound multicultural, like it didn't belong to one person. It belonged to a whole different group of people we hadn't met yet. But also multicultural like us, US. The instruments side by side and the strange music just makes the song sound uncanny, but what we all know, the universal language, is the emotion that is coming from the song, and it is a warning cry, I tell you what. The last song that I want to talk about doesn't have too much of a story behind it, not like the ones we've just talked about, but it is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, opening score of all time. And it's gonna really surprise you. I mean, opening score for a horror film. It is the opening titles to Prince of Darkness by John Carpenter. Directed and written by John Carpenter, Prince of Darkness is a late 80s horror about a priest who finds a mysterious canister that is filled with liquid. But the liquid is more sinister than it seems, and it has the power to end the world as we know it. Prince of Darkness is the second part of John Carpenter's Apocalypse trilogy, after The Thing and before In the Mouth of Madness. The film was enjoyable, but what really stuck with me was the theme song. Put plainly, everything I loved about the Halloween theme is heightened in the Prince of Darkness opening. It has the same 3 repeating chords throughout the whole song, just stirring in the background. But during that, it takes a complete journey, playing a melody over and over with different instruments and elements. And the synth is awesome, having a mix of these 3 repetitive chords stirring in the background as we're going on this journey with the rest of the melody. It's just amazing. As I said, I'm not a musician, so I'm sorry if I totally butchered these terms, but I just love the stirring aspect of something evil looming during this whole entire song with the journey that you take with the rest of it. As I said before, I left a playlist of all of these songs down below. Please go and listen to them. You can actually hear what I'm talking about and it will make so much more sense. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. It was a little bit longer than usual, but I was really passionate about it and I got really excited when I was doing this research. Let me know what your favorite soundtracks are down below. If you haven't subscribed, please do, and I'll talk to you guys very soon. Please stay safe. Bye.